Welcome to Game Crunch, your weekly video game podcast. My name is Mike Anastasia, and with me today we have Brandon.
Hi.
We're here to talk about games and things.
Games and things, probably.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Ideally.
Yep.
What's on the agenda today? Well, Xenoblade Chronicles X Deluxe Edition came out. So that is
Yep. Heard
that
about
is
that.
new. Mm-hmm. Then we got some other games and some rumors to go over, and that's what we're looking at.
Yep.
Ready to get into it?
Yeah.
All right.
Of course.
I'll start off because I got new and exciting. So Xenoblade Chronicles X Deluxe Edition was released for the Switch this week. So that's what I've been playing. I got at least 10 hours in. I don't know exactly where my playthrough time is. I was above 12 last time I checked. So
okay,
a decent amount of time with the re-release here. So I did play, for listeners, and I think we talked about it last week too. I did play the original game on the Wii U, so I am familiar with that.
A little bit of
it. How much did you play? I do vaguely remember you playing, but
I probably only a couple of hours,
mm-hmm.
like maybe 5 or 6 hours. So really not that much at all. I don't remember like anything, but I do remember that at least on the Wii U, it was a good game. It seemed like it was.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, this is different than I would say the other Xenoblade games because this one is not as story driven. This one is really like, hey,
it feels like an MMO sort of, like with the way it's structured. Like it's kind of there. The story kind of takes a back seat.
Yeah, I would say
more about
more
the combat.
So than yeah. More about the exploration and the kind of like, I guess, the world building is probably the better way to put it. Because there is story beats here, but you really have to go and find them. Like, it's not that they're hidden, it's not that they're hard to find, and not that there is no story. It's just like this world is really like what you want to make out of it. So it gives you, I'm trying to think, it's something like 12 story missions to go through, which aren't terribly long. But they're all kind of they're gated, so it's kind of like you must be this level and must have done this thing, like seen like try to think like, oh, X percentage of this continent or something. So they have like these little like basically locks to prevent you from going too forward too fast, and so that's kind of what I'm talking about, where those kind of the story is not necessarily driving you like with the other Xenoblade games. This game is really like, hey, Earth is no longer habitable, so we need to find a new planet, and here you are, and good luck. And that's kind of where it starts out, and that's kind of what you have. And you meet other characters in the way, and a lot of the story is kind of like, kind of about figuring out what's going on with them, kind of figuring out about, the planet, Mira is what it's called, and kind of, the struggles of adapting to a new planet, and kind of exploring the continents that are there, and seeing kind of all the different aspects of that. And they really kind of talk about, you think about if we were legitimately moving to another planet, some of the things that they have you tasked with are very much related to that. Like, we gotta get a good understanding of kind of what the terrain's like and what the creatures are like, and making sure it's safe and looking into those things. And then obviously there's issues with, because your ship was destroyed when you landed, so there's some valuable stuff that needs to be found. They start you off pretty early in the game, basically being like, hey, there's a life hold that holds all of Earth's life in it, and it needs to be rescued within X amount of time before power runs out or everything's fucked. So that's the clock you're working against. The clock time's arbitrary. That's really driven by its story. It's not like you actually have X amount of time to find things, but it's constantly counting down, and kind of is, the thing that, drives the game. Game, in terms of battle, plays somewhat similarly to the other Xenoblade games, with kind of more focused attacks and team-based gameplay. But they did add some extra twists in there too, like you do have the ability to use some moves on a more as needed basis instead of always having to wait them recharge, which is nice. They added in some other really nice quality of life things, like you can change your party members not during battle but on the fly. Like you had, I believe before, you had to go back in the city to swap them out like at a very specific place. Now you can change them out in the field, so it's not a lot of backtracking. So those kind of things are very nice. And they also added some other quality of life things as well, like just easier management of like money and items and resources and things like that. It definitely is a more playable game than it was before, but this game is also a time sink. Like this is a huge undertaking. I remember if I want to say, I barely beat this game on the Wii U at 70 hours. Like I scraped by, just like barely finishing the final battle, just at the level that I was at, just at about 70 hours of time. So this one definitely requires a lot of investment to really get moving. Like for example, too, you do get like these, they call them skulls. Other sources of media would call them dolls, but basically like robots that you can like traverse the environment and in battle with. So, but those generally take like, I think usually about 40 hours to get into. So it's not like you can just kind of slide right into it. You got a lot of work to do before you can actually get into them and start using them. One of the other nice things about this game is they did make them so you can get them a bit earlier than you did previously, but
okay,
still it's like it's a good amount of time. Like they want you to understand the battle mechanics before you start adding in new features, which I guess is understandable, but it's kind of one of the more exciting parts of this game, and just have it so late in the game. I mean, I guess it's nice incentive, but yeah, just something that you're just going to constantly be working towards, for a while. So that is there. What else do I have to say about this game? Looks amazing. I think this is easily the best looking Xenoblade game. Definitely the most stable Xenoblade game. And the draw distances are incredible. Like this game really knocks it out of the park graphically. So it looks phenomenal. It holds up really well. And somehow it would just, I don't know, Nintendo's voodoo magic. It's actually a smaller file size than even it was on the Wii U, which it's impressive. So if you remember, even with the Wii U one, when this game came out, it had like an extra downloadable thing so that you could reload textures faster. Not an issue on this game. Everything looks crisp and nice, and at least to my eye, very little stutters frame rate wise, and very stable 30 frames per second. So
yeah,
it looks really nice. Apparently, too, inside the files, there's a hidden 60 frames per minute mode that is not available currently.
You mean per second? FPS.
Oh,
Not
60
per
frames per minute.
That would be
great.
Wild.
Yeah, that would be awesome. 60 frames.
It's probably for the Switch too.
Yeah, that's the guess.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best speculation there is, which makes sense. To give it
obviously.
Boost there. But it already looks phenomenal.
Here's the thing: if there's like 60 FPS modes for all of the like Xenoblade games when the Switch 2 comes out, I'm buying all of them. It's simple as that, because I've always wanted to play through all of them, right? Because I've played them, I've never finished them, but a lot of the problem is just how poor the frame rate is. Now I understand. I'm not trying to say it's like bad, like badly optimized or anything, but I don't like 30 FPS. 30 FPS is a little too much for me nowadays. I've gotten used to much higher FPS, and going back to 30 is really a deal breaker, especially with Xenoblade 2. I think Xenoblade 2 has the most inconsistent FPS because I believe it was fully uncapped. So 1 minute you'll be in like the 40s or 50s, and then the next minute you'll be down to like the 20s. And it's just kind of all over the place. But if there was 60 FPS patches for like the Switch 2 for all of those, that would give those games a whole new lease on life.
It would be really nice. Although I think we've talked about it before. I know a lot of your graphical issues with Xenoblade 2 was before they did like the significant like patch update later.
Very true. I did get it when it first came out. So
yeah, and I don't remember. I mean, it's been a while since I played the game. I remember it being much better last time I played it, but I don't remember. Exactly.
You're also not susceptible to like frame rate stuff. So
no,
maybe
I know.
Much better for you is
some things.
I think you could see like the absolute like egregious things, which are very obvious now with a lot of releases on Switch, because Switch is hardware that was outdated before it released. So, and I don't mean like a little outdated. I mean like by multiple years.
Yeah, which is fair. But this one, like I said, very solid. I actually think this is the most solid of all the Xenoblade games, and possibly the best looking. So they do a really good job with that. in this one. I will say though, one thing that I still don't like about this game is the music. The music fucking sucks. I mean, it's not bad. I know some people like it, but the Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3 music, exquisite. Xenoblade Chronicles X, not as much. I don't know. It's mostly hip hop and stuff and very repetitive. I just don't enjoy it as much.
I see.
I'm sure some people do, and I'm sure it's fitting, but yeah, no, it's just not for me. I don't know, that's all there is that too. But otherwise, yeah, this game is just it's like non-stop packed with like side quests and things to explore and things to
content.
find.
Just a lot of content.
Yeah, it's overwhelming, and that thing is my thing with this game too. I have a feeling that I'm just probably gonna very slowly progress through this game. There's just a lot to do. Like I said, it's at least a 70-hour game.
Yeah.
And being that it's mostly exploration driven instead of story driven, those are things that tend to slow me down a lot in terms of like progression, because I usually need like some incentive to kind of push through, aside from like, hey, but you can see this thing. No, I want a reason to do it.
You want a reason to go there.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes just like, go find, because a lot of the quests that you get, I mean, there's a nice variety of them, but some of them are like gathering things, like, oh, go collect 5 acorns or whatever, and you're like, okay, well, I don't really want to collect 5 fucking acorns. So those things kind of get old fast. And then there's some like other things too, like, go and kill this and go and do that. Those kind of missions, they're all there. They have a nice variety, but you just some of it just gets kind of old. It does still also have kind of like the named beasts and things like that, which are fun to kind of find and take out. So you get that. One thing that's unique to this game compared to the other Xenoblade games is it does give you like a grid map, and that each piece of the grid has like a different way to complete it. Sometimes it's planting a probe. That's kind of how you unlock, kind of more information on the map.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also things like, defeat this unique boss, or, go and get this treasure from this item. So, or do this unique side quest. So those kind of things, kind of fill out the map. And as you collect tiles, you unlock, higher percentages on each one. And it does take some time to kind of whittle through that. And some of the things, even if you know where they are, they take either some hunting around, or maybe you'll need like a skull or something to kind of get to that area to actually complete the mission. So really kind of depends, but that kind of aspect is just, it's nice. That I think satisfies the collectathon itch for some people, kind of that watching that percentage bar constantly get higher and higher. So those kind of things are all nice. I'm trying to think what else is in here that I wanted to talk about too. There's some other things. So one other thing that they did not quite fix in this game, which definitely is important for people who want to play this game to know. So there are different kinds of missions in this game. So you have story missions, which I think those are self-explanatory. Like I said, there's 12 of them, and those are what actually progresses the story from landing on the planet to presumably past the cliffhanger ending, because there is new content in this game that hopefully helps smooth that out. So there is that. So that's one aspect. The next kind of mission is affinity missions. Those are basically missions that you take for your teammates, kind of help explore their stories a little bit more and help build their skills. So important thing to note with story missions and affinity missions: if you are in the middle of a story mission, you cannot take affinity missions. If you're in the middle of an affinity mission, you cannot take story missions. This is important to note because there are some really douchey missions. And so if you take a mission and it's not easily able to be completed right away, you are stuck with it for a while. So there are certain ones that you might... Generally, the recommendation is with the affinity missions, don't do them until you have to, because they can...
they last a long time?
They don't go away. They're kind of part of the...
No, that's not what I meant. I meant, like, are the missions themselves, like, long?
Not necessarily, depending on what they are.
Because I know, like, some of them, like some RPGs and stuff, they'll have like missions that are like, if you take this mission, then you're locked out of all the other missions until you fully complete this mission. And then sometimes those missions are like fucking 2-3 hours long, and it's just like, Jesus Christ.
Well, that's the problem with it. It's because on paper they may not necessarily be very long. Like, for example, one that I had done yesterday is unlocked very early in the game. Like, I think it's as soon as you complete the second chapter, it's available. But when you open it up, it's like, hey, mine 5 of these things. The problem is if you haven't already set up probes and
Hmm.
started mining things, then you have to wait for the probes to get the correct amount of resources that you need to complete the mission. So if you, like with myself, when I picked it up, I already knew that was a prerequisite to completing the mission. So I already had tons of probes picked up before I accepted the mission. So by the time I picked it up, I didn't have anything to do. It was already like, all right, you completed this part of the mission, you're good. But for someone, I anecdotally had saw someone on Reddit that had not done said thing, and so they had to wait around hours for it to complete. So they were stuck just doing kind of side quests and whatever until the mining caught up to what they needed. So
Hmm.
so on paper, yeah, it shouldn't actually take that long, but if you were not prepared for it, it could be hours before you finish it. Not of you actively doing anything, but just kind of background letting it do what it needs to do. Sometimes too, the missions will send you into an area that's not a place you've explored, and also can send you towards um, enemies that are much more aggressive or higher level than you. I'd say compared to the other Xenoblade games too, and granted, a lot of the Xenoblade games always had this. Like they always had like a good mix of, low level enemies, high level enemies that kind of ignore you, in the world. This one I feel like has a more random mix. So the ones in the other games are kind of like, hey, you're starting out, you're in a low chapter, so you're gonna see a lot of lower level enemies. But because this game opens up and basically is just like, hey, go to town wherever you can get to,
Hmm.
realistically you can go. Everything's just very mixed. So you might, see a lot of low level enemies. You might see a little high level enemies, all in the way of that you need to go. And it's really kind of about, navigating the world to get to where you need to. But you're always at risk of running into, a bunch of higher level enemies. The game's not very punishing. If you die, you just go back to your last, uh, not even checkpoint, just the last area that was kind of like a safe area.
Hmm.
You don't lose progress. It's just, a movement thing. But that's just something to keep in mind. So,
Okay.
because that can be frustrating. So there's that. Trying to think what else is in there. There's online mode. You can do like squads and you can get rewards for that kind of stuff too. That's always useful. Even if you're not going to actively go in squads, the rewards can be beneficial and you can get those tangentially. So it's worth, if you're online and not an NSO, not unreasonable. Just kind of have it auto sign in you in and just kind of run in the
Yeah.
background. And plus too, then if you want to jump in, you can always do that as well. What else is in there? One other, I guess, kind of change. People have been out of shape about this, but I really don't mind. Um, and this you might remember from the last one. When you start Xenoblade Chronicles X, it actually asks you to choose a faction because you're part of Blade, and there's different factions like Pathfinders that go and set up the probes, and mediators that help with kind of whatever personal civilian issues might be going on the ground. There's like 8 different divisions you can choose from. In the last game, it was actually very important, whatever division you chose. In this game, it's not. It's purely for show. So they changed the way that the mission structure is. So you are not kind of penalized for whatever division you choose anymore, for better or
Mm.
worse. Some people are like, it takes away from the game. I honestly think that it was negligible last time, and it's even better that it's just kind of a surface level thing this time. So that is nice. Uh, what else about this game? I don't know. It's fun. There's a lot to do. Um, but I think those are the big things for it. So still plays really well. Like I said, I think the gameplay stuff that they added on there is great, and it's constantly adding on new things. Like it's actually there's so much in this game that it's giving it to me faster than I can mentally keep up with the rate that it's unlocking things to do.
Okay. Yeah.
In terms of like new battle systems and things.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, if you're familiar with Xenoblade, you should have at least a pretty reasonable understanding of this battle system and how to progress through it. You're just having to do a lot of it on your own instead of story driven. Do you have any questions? I'm sure there's other things that I want to talk about with this
No,
game,
because
but
I would really need to sit down and like actually play it to be able to formulate any questions on this one.
yeah.
Which I probably will at some point, but yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. But those are my highlights. I know I'll be back to it again next week because, like I said, this is a 70-hour game, and there's no fucking way I got at least 60 more hours to put in this game in the next week. So there, I will be back to this next week. So stay tuned. And I think that's all I have to talk about this week so far. So. Yes. What have
Okay.
you been playing?
A lot of things, but not really a lot. So I'll explain it this way. I rebuilt my computer last week, as you may know,
Uh-huh.
and it's fully done now. Except I got a new power supply coming in that I'm gonna plug up on Friday. But anyway, I tested a lot of different games to see how everything was going, and it worked really well. But I'll go over some of the ones I played. So first, I'm gonna talk about the new one, which is Myriad Death, which is based off of a VTuber, and it's pretty much Enter the Gungeon, but reskinned, and it's actually really fun. Like if you like Enter the Gungeon, if you ever played it, it's great. It's like only like $8, and it's really fun to play. Or maybe it's 9. I don't remember. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But there's a lot of weapons. There's a lot of different abilities and yada 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 blah blah blah. Roguelike, Enter the Gungeon, and it's very fun. I don't really have a whole lot other than just, I guess, kind of play it if you can. Moving on from that, I went back and played more Black Myth Wukong. Black Myth Wukong is a Souls-like, but it has a lot more in common with something like Ninja Gaiden, in my opinion, than anything else. And I was able to actually play through a lot more of it on higher settings and with all the bells and whistles and with like no sort of issues whatsoever playing it. And it feels really smooth and it looks incredible. And the gameplay itself is just so fun once you've got it down. So this game, I think I kind of slept on it a lot last year, mostly because I didn't play a whole lot of it, but I spent a good few hours playing it this time, went through a lot more than I did before, and just enjoyed the world for I explored the world a lot. I saw a lot of different areas and that sort of deal. And I fought like several new bosses, and I had an absolute blast with this game. It's really, really fun. It's very enjoyable, and it's got a lot going on in it with a lot of different abilities and stuff. So yeah, highly recommend that one actually if you like character action or like Souls-like games. Moving on from that, I'm just gonna move swiftly on basically because again, I played quite a few things, but I don't have much to say about them.
Yeah.
I played more Monster Hunter because Monster Hunter Wilds is just excellent. It is easily one of the best games released so far this year. And I think it's going to be very difficult to beat it out. I don't see a moment. I don't see enough things that could potentially knock this out of my top spot for this year because this game is just that good. Like I said before, I literally rebuilt my computer just to play this game, and I do not regret it one bit. It has been an absolute blast to play Monster Hunter Wilds. Highly, highly, highly recommend checking this one out. It's on literally everything, and the game itself, it's just what I liked about Monster Hunter World, but like cranked up to 11, pretty much. I did a few like major story elements, but I also did things like I went and accepted people's SOSs, which is where you go to other people's missions and help them beat up things and help them finish the game or finish the monster that they are hunting currently. And I went and did that a lot so that I could grind out these specific monster parts to make a set. Because I mean that's kind of what you do in Monster Hunter. You grind out armor sets and weapons and this, that, and the other by fighting some monsters over and over again. But just in general, I think Monster Hunter Wilds is fucking excellent. I did boot up and try several other little things to just kind of check on them. I booted up and played for like an hour or two Satisfactory, which I believe I've talked about before. It's a game where you pretty much colonize a planet, but what you're doing is making a gigantic factory and taking all the like materials and shit from said planet and taking it for yourself and making things, and you build like conveyor belts and you automate the entire process and you find all the stuff you need. It's like a very calming and relaxing game. Absolutely just a blast to play. It's something that's really easy to like turn your brain off and just play for several hours without realizing that you have. So I did that a bit, and then I also played some Tetris Effect, which if you know me, you know I really like Tetris Effect, and they had like a little event going on this weekend, as they always do. And I played some of the new stuff in Tetris Effect, and that game was very, very fun to play. That game still is just beautiful to look at and a blast to just experience, pretty much. Other than that, the only real thing I have to talk about is the journey to make the computer work, which was pretty interesting because it was like 12 hours of pain, and in some cases literally pain, because I was like stabbed by it while like putting it together and cut up, and so was Katie, and it was an absolute mess. So there was that. Yeah, so a few of the things that went wrong with the computer that I can run down.
Yeah.
And I'll tackle it in order.
Mm-hmm.
At first, it wouldn't turn on at all.
Okay.
But then it would turn on, but only for a split second before turning back off. So the way I solved the first problem, the not turning on at all, was I actually, on another computer, had to download a BIOS file, which is, think of like major system updates or like firmware updates for your PlayStation, your Xbox, or what have you. But it's for a individual part of your computer. So I downloaded that, and then there's a one slot in the back of the computer that you can plug a USB flash drive with that file into, and then you have to like hold a button for 3 seconds, and then it downloads the file while your computer is not on, and it installs it onto the computer without you having to boot it, because I couldn't boot it because of the issue that it had. And after I got that all set up and working, it still didn't turn on, which was just fantastic. And it turns out there was a tiny, itty bitty piece of metal that was barely touching the back that was attached to my case. And that was causing the computer to not boot up because of that tiny little piece. It was basically shorting it out and not allowing it to turn on. So we had to get the pliers and take that out. And that was fun. And then we got that up and running. We got it up and running eventually. But then I had a day where everything was going great. And then the next day when I booted it, I heard this like clicking sound. And I believe at that point is when I realized the power supply that I'm currently using is dying. And that was my 650 watt power supply. So I said, okay, well, I'll just put back in my old power supply, which I did. So take it apart, put it all back together again, all that fun jazz. And I got the old power supply back in. And thankfully, the old power supply is working, but it's not as good. So I ordered a new power supply, which will be here on Friday. So I'll have to take it out apart again on Friday and put in the new power supply. But that was a huge journey, which is part of the reason why I played like nothing this weekend.
Yeah, it sounds like a pain in the butt.
It was a pain in the ass. I normally don't run into this many issues, but it was just a lot this time. I think the problem was mostly the case that I picked out. I wanted a very small case for my computer, and I'll show you what I mean because I do have a picture of it. So I'll send it to you so you can see it. But basically, I wanted a small-ish case for my computer, so I really tried to fit a massive card inside of a tiny box. For example, I sent it to you in general. You can kind of see how small the case is there and whatnot. That monitor you see that's next to it, that is a 27-inch. So my case is smaller than 27 inches. And then my my graphics card is massive, as you could probably see. It's the thing that says XLR in the picture. It's massive. So we had to like fandangle and like maneuver it to be able to fit it in there. But I knew it would fit in there because I read it up on it that if you took the fans out of the front and put them on the top instead, then you could fit it in there, which I did. And it eventually fit in there. And as you can see, it's a little bit of a snug fit, but this is pretty much the size of case that I want, because you see how much like space I have on my desk. like because of this. Like that's a big wide open white space on my desk with there's like nothing there except the little stand that you can see in the bottom left hand corner, and that stand is for the Wi-Fi card, which I've now connected. So yeah, that took a lot, but I think the end result is it looks very good, as you can tell in that image. Like it looks really nice, and that
Yeah.
little temperature meter literally tells me what the temperature of the CPU is on the inside of the computer as well. I set that up as well for it. It's very convenient, so I don't have to like use external like software or anything. I just look on my computer and can see what the temperature is currently. So very convenient, very nice. All the parts came out to about like 550. That's the new case, the new CPU, the new motherboard, the new fans, the new CPU cooler. So like not a lot in the grand scheme of things when it comes to computer parts. And I think I did really well. Oh, it also the new RAM. So yeah, I got a shit ton of stuff for not a lot of money when it comes to computer parts again. And then I just put my old graphics card in there, and it works like a charm. And my old graphics card was already a 4070 Ti, so that's already good enough. Like that's high to like, you know, not performance, but high to like, you know, highest end. Not quite highest because it's not like a 4090, 4080, but it's getting up there. I can run pretty much everything at max settings in 4K or 1440p, so it works, and it works really, really well. And that was my main journey this weekend.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously a lot, so it makes sense.
It
It looks sexy though.
I know, it looks great. I'm really happy about how it turned out. It's very like subtle for the most part. Like the purple isn't really overpowering. So
Yeah.
it's nice, a little accent.
Exactly.
It's not
Yeah,
super
nice
gamery or anything like that, and it doesn't really light up my whole fucking room when I go to bed at night because this is in my bedroom. So yeah.
That's not going to keep you up all night. It may keep you
No.
warm, but it's not going to keep you up all night.
Not really, because as you can see, I mean, it's 40 degrees Celsius, and it most of the time it idles at like 33 or 30 degrees Celsius, which is really good for a computer running on just an air cooler and 3 fans. So it doesn't really keep me warm at night either. It's actually probably one of the better built computers I've put together.
Good. Those are all good things.
It was hell to get it to where it is now.
Oh, I'm sure. It sounds like it. And I was just like, well, this is why I buy computers that are already.
No, I understand. I understand completely. But like, I mean, there's something about like, you know, you said it looks like sexy and everything. There's something about me and Katie built that ourselves, you know?
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
It looks really nice. So
yeah, very meaningful.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, ready to move on to news?
Yeah, I'm good. I got a few things that I wrote down here.
Yeah, you could do your news and then I'll talk about rumors.
Yeah. So, first I want to talk about the new Monster Hunter stuff. They announced a bunch of new monsters. They're adding a hub for like players to like gather in. There has not been one in this game yet. And then they're gonna have like new types of quests where you can hunt like monsters that have not been in the game yet, and new types of monsters. I believe it was called Arch Tempered, which is beyond Tempered, which Tempered is where the monsters cut off right now. So Arch Tempered is a new type of difficulty for monster hunting. There's going to be like arena quests where you can fight monsters in the arena and compete online against other players to see who can kill the monster the fastest with their builds. New costumes for characters and everything, and there's a lot of new stuff. Some of it's paid, but most of the stuff like the new monsters, the hub area, and a few of the new costumes and like the arena quests and stuff, all that's free. So like that's really good, you know?
Yeah.
They're going to be doing a lot of free updates for this game and just updates in general for this game over the next several years. So that's looking good. So I'm very excited to see where this goes in the future, because there's already a really good foundation here. Like, I'm not going to sit here and like lie and say there's a lot of content in the game. There's not, compared to other Monster Hunter games at launch, but it is really good. What we do have, and the stuff they are adding for free to make up for the fact that this was obviously pushed out a lot faster because they wanted to meet that fiscal year in like review, that sort of deal, to be able to put this on their quarterly income for the first quarter of 2025. It was very obvious that they wanted to do that, but like the game itself is incredibly good, and the fact that they're giving us the stuff back for free, and then also like bringing events and stuff, like they're doing a festival in April starting on the 22nd. All cool, all very, very cool things. So very excited for that stuff to come up. Yeah, there we go. There's that. Moving on from that, there was I put here Bloodborne Sadness, which I stand by. Yesterday, which was the 24th of March, was Bloodborne's 10th anniversary, and Sony didn't even acknowledge its existence, period, at all. They pretty much do like, well, for instance, like last week was the 20th anniversary of God of War, and they could not shut up about it. They went on for about it for like a week, and other stuff. And they've done stuff for like Horizon, like the 1 year anniversary for fucking Horizon, Forbidden West, and shit like that. But Bloodborne's 10-year anniversary came around yesterday, and they literally said nothing. Not even a tweet. Like nothing. Literally nothing. So what a lot of people have done, because Sony doesn't want to recognize the existence of Bloodborne, is a lot of people are going back to Bloodborne. The community has like put together pretty much the fan community has put together a thing where they will be having people return to the multiplayer and to the other such things and repopulate the servers of Bloodborne for the next few weeks, and try to bring the game back because it's been so long. Like, there's obviously been some players in for the last few years because it's Bloodborne, and it is a huge game that is very adored by a lot of people. And so it's kind of like the community trying to kind of bring the game back and be like, hey, let's get this as popular as it used to be, get a lot of people in there, and a lot of people have already started playing it, and it's pretty cool. Like, a bunch of people coming together when Sony themselves won't even acknowledge its existence. So that's kind of the Bloodborne sadness there. Like, no one was expecting anything to be announced, because no one that is a fan of Bloodborne, and has been for as long as it's existed, should believe that Sony will do anything with that game anymore. I'm almost positive nothing will ever happen with that game ever again. But it's good that the like fan base is like coming together and trying to do something for the 10-year anniversary instead, since Sony themselves won't. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But still very sad that like it is one of the most requested remakes, is one of the largest trending games on like social media whenever Sony has any kind of state of play or anything, or talks about any kind of upcoming announcements. It's one of the like most beloved in the entire like Soulsborne series. There's a reason why it has Born at the end of the title of Soulsborne instead of just Souls-like or anything like that, because Bloodborne is that influential that people had to give it its own portion of the genre, and it is one of the most beloved, Soulsborne games in the entire genre, and people love it and they want to be able to play it again, and it's kind of difficult to right now. It's really not something that can be done that well, and that sucks quite a lot, because it seems Sony doesn't want to do anything. But again, there are other things that don't really make a lot of sense, like during the entire pandemic for 5 years, a 60 FPS patch that worked on PlayStation 4, as well as a demake that was made, existed for 5 years, and then this year was taken down and DMCA'd by Sony after being a very well-known thing in the community for 5+ years. So a lot of people said, well, maybe they'll do something for the 10-year anniversary. And like I said, anyone that knows Bloodborne knows nothing was going to happen, because it's widely believed that the like head of Sony or at least someone that's at the head of Sony, hates the existence of this game because of the fact that it's so requested and it overshadows anything else they ever like put out. So like, if you look on any kind of social media thing, it'll be like, we're doing a Horizon Zero Dawn remake, and everyone's like, that's nice, where's Bloodborne? Like everywhere, everyone, it's always there. It's always there. No matter what video, what tweet, what post, it's always there because it's the thing that people want the most from Sony when it comes to remaking their old like PS4 franchises. And it's the one that has been the least even mentioned by Sony themselves. So
Game fall into that weird kind of area that we always complain about with games where they're remaking them too soon. Because I mean,
No.
Bloodborne is playable on PlayStation 5.
Yes,
right?
and no. Yes and no. So here's the thing. Bloodborne, unlike every other PlayStation 4 game, never got a pro patch. Ever. So it's base PS4 performance, which puts the game at 720p and sub 30 FPS with bad frame pacing, that was never fixed. So you can play it on your PS5, but it looks very, very bad, and it plays very, very bad because it still has the same performance as base PS4, even on a PS5.
So where did this game play good then? Like, where if this game is that bad at base, then why are we so excited about it?
Because the game itself is really good, and where this game played good was nowhere. This game itself, from a technical standpoint, has never played good, and that is part of the reason why people want a upgrade, want a remake or a remaster, or at least a patch to smooth out a lot of things. Because when the game released in 2015, standards for most people, especially on console, were a lot lower. We are 10 years on. Standards are a lot higher now. You can't be having a game. What were you going to say?
Standards are a lot higher.
What'd
I don't disagree there. I said, are they? I said, I think your standards are a lot higher, but
No.
You know how console releases are.
No.
It's issue with all console games.
There's zero anti-aliasing in this. There is no form of upscaling whatsoever in this at all. It is a blurry mess of a game that drops frames down to the lower 20s. And it has bad frame pacing, as I already said, which means even if it is at a solid 30 FPS, it's still kind of not that good. And you can look at anything. You could say, oh, it's just me saying it, but you can look at anyone. There are people asking specifically for this game to be remade or at least to get a patch because of the abysmal performance and the fact that we have moved on from how bad the performance of this game was.
I'm not disagreeing that people are asking, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like, we always complain that Sony remakes things too soon.
Yes, and you know what? This is not a case of that. This would not be a case of something being remade too soon. Something like Days Gone is something that's being remade too soon. That game came out in 2019. They're remaking it this year. That's something that's remade too soon. Something like the third release of fucking The Last of Us. That's remade too soon. Something like The Last of Us Part 2 remake, remaster, that sort of thing. That's remade too soon. Something that is 10 years old, at the time the hardware already couldn't handle the game, and then on top of that, never having any form of patch whatsoever, that's not being remade too soon. That's something that legitimately needs a remake. There are a few games on the PS4 that I think do still need a remake. It is one of the major ones that I think. It is the biggest and most requested game on PS4 for a remake. And then it just never happens. There are a few others that I would say deserve a remake. Probably something like, oh, goodness. I can't remember if it's 60 FPS. I actually can't. But the Infamous games, Second Son, I think a remake of those would be fine. I think that we're at the point now where that game being remade would be totally fine and wouldn't be like just a big, huge cash grab. Plus, it would bring that game back into the spotlight, because when was the last time you heard anything mentioned about Infamous?
That's been
You
a
know,
while.
yeah,
Infamous 1
exactly.
and 2 could use those two.
Oh,
definitely
those
could.
definitely. I still think Second Son could also, but yeah, that's just me. I'm trying to think of some other like first party like PS4 titles, because there were some first party PS4 titles that I do think could. Let me just do a quick Google search. No, PS4. Okay, so yeah, like these are like not it, but like let's see what we got here. No, I think Infamous Second Son is probably the best case scenario for a first party PS4 title that deserves a remake, aside from Bloodborne. If you look at anything else, it's like, okay, well, this is already in a place that's acceptable or even really rather good, but then you look at some others and you're just like, and pretty much the only two that still stand out are Bloodborne and Infamous Second Son. Although I'm pretty sure we'll see an Uncharted 4 remake before we see either of those, and we'll probably see a fucking Uncharted Collection remake before we see
I was
this.
gonna say,
Which
probably the
again,
whole freaking collection.
yeah, again, which is absolutely fucking ridiculous. There's no need for that, because those games are already in a fine place as they are currently. So I don't see any reason for that. But again, Sony likes to ignore the games that I feel actually do deserve remakes, because they'd rather grab things that they can easily shit out and make a couple million on, and then go back into hiding.
Uncharted is safe money.
Uncharted is safe money. That's why I said easily shit out a cheap remake on, make a couple million, and then go back into hiding, which is 100% correct. Like, I'm not wrong.
No,
like you're not going
That's
to see
exactly
them. Fuck, I wish I could remember the name of the game. It's the one about. Oh yeah, okay, never mind. You're not going to see like a Gravity Rush remake. You're not going to see that.
Oh, no.
You're not going to see Gravity Rush 1 or 2 remakes. Which again, I also think those two would probably be a very good contenders for actual games that deserve remakes, compared to anything else that Sony is wanting to remake right now. Yeah, you're not going to see the games that actually probably should have remakes ever get remakes, which is absolute dog shit. I mean, it's like they said, basically they make these remakes to be able to fund the big name titles like your Wolverine, like your Spider-Man 2, like your Venom, like your whatever they're working on that's going to cost like 500, 600, $700 million to make one game of. So they dump out all these remakes, but then like the ones that actually make sense, they like, no, we're not touching them. So
maybe
it sucks. No. As a fan, no. I'm saying as a fan of Bloodborne, I know they will never make a remake. It's best to just keep that expectation that there is no expectation, because you'll just continuously be let down. They're never going to remake this game. They're never going to release a 60 FPS patch. They're never going to do
dramatic.
Any of that. No, it's not even that. It's just the truth. It's just something that you have to accept eventually, and that's just how it is. Because it's not the safe remake. It's not. It's like if they remade Dreams, it's not happening.
Dark Souls wasn't a safe remake either.
Demon Souls, you mean?
Oh yeah, Demon Souls. Sorry. Yeah.
You're right. It wasn't, and I don't know how that came to be. I really don't know how that came to be, but yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, any other news?
No. What have you got for rumors?
I got 2 rumors. So, one, supposedly there's a Nintendo Direct coming this week. So,
why this week? I thought it was coming out on the 8th, because that's when they're announcing the Switch 2 stuff and giving us a release date.
So yeah, so Switch 2 stuff. I actually think that isn't the second.
Is it the second? Oh my god! Please no.
2 Direct. I think it's the second. Yep, April 2nd. So yeah, so that's
okay.
Yeah, so that's coming up in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Which basically means
in 2 weeks.
No, that's next week.
No, that's in 7 days.
Yeah, that's in 7 days.
So, no, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah,
8. It's 8. It's 8.
Yeah.
It's 8.
Yeah. So, so it's coming out next week. So there's that, which means that they have a limited amount of time to get the rest of their Switch stuff out. Yeah.
Yeah. That's true.
And my guess is they probably were like, hey, we want to get this out between when Xenoblade Chronicles X comes out and the Switch 2 announcement, which leaves just this week. So it makes sense that that's kind of what they're going for. But it seems, at least it kind of seems like it's probably legitimate because everyone under the sun says that a Direct's coming this week. And usually that doesn't happen unless it is actually coming. So they don't seem to know if it's going to be like a Partners Direct or General Direct, but kind of the general underscore has been
I see.
that third parties have a lot of stuff that they want to announce for the Switch before it gets buried by the Switch 2. So makes sense. So that means that they're probably going to squeeze it out this week. Also, too, Nintendo has some things for the Switch that they have that will probably be released by the end of this year. I mean, really, the Switch 2 is not going to come out. Let's just be optimistic and say the earliest May or June. Like that means you still have April, May for Switch stuff, and presumably some Switch stuff for the rest of the year. There's a rumored remake of a Kirby game that's supposed to be coming out this year. We know that that's coming out. Metroid Prime 4, that's supposed to be this year. We expect an update for that.
I'm pretty sure Metroid Prime 4 is also going to be a Switch 2 the launch title. It'll be like the Breath of the Wild for Switch 2.
Could be very likely, but it is definitely going to be a Switch title, so they do need to give a Switch update for it. It seems like they're due for that. So there's that. I mean, obviously we just saw Pokemon ZA about a month ago. So we know that that's coming. So there's enough Switch stuff out there that they got to talk about alongside third-party things. So makes sense. So stay tuned. We will know about that by the time you're listening to this episode because it would have already happened if it's going to happen. And then next week we'll have obviously the Switch 2 stuff in kind of the same way, shape, and form. So So busy.
You wanna record Switch 2 stuff when they do the announcements next week?
I mean, I won't be able to do it live because it will be when I'm at work.
Okay.
But
wait, what time is it?
It's 9 a.m.
Okay, I'm watching it live then.
But we could always, if you want to do like a later in the day one, we could do it that way too.
Yeah. We might do that.
Yeah, think about it. Let me know.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the other rumor surprisingly ties into something we talked about. I think it was last week. But Xbox posted up like a promo picture.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know what this is.
Yeah, where they're like, hey, Steam. Steam is something that could be on the Xbox, which kind of talks about like the theoretical Xbox handheld, where you're like, it'd be perfect if it included Steam because then literally anything would be playable. Yep. And I even saw something recently that was like Sony was even like, hey, as long as it plays Steam, we don't give a fuck what platform it's on. So, so theoretically, you could possibly have an Xbox device, handheld.
Spider-Man and God of War and a bunch of other Last of Us.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So Xbox may be beating Sony to their own game. So interesting.
Just remaking Sony PlayStation games before they do because it just runs through Steam, which would give you the graphics settings for PC. Oh man, that'd be fucking hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was the only other rumor that I had, but I thought both of those were pretty interesting. So definitely a lot of Nintendo stuff. If not this week, we definitely have, obviously the Direct next week to talk about, and then definitely some exciting stuff potentially coming in Xbox pipeline. That I honestly think though, like that Xbox thing, not a mistake. Like I think that's definitely them pointing towards kind of what they're thinking. So that seems very deliberate, and that's honestly probably the most forward-thinking thing that I've seen them contemplate in a while. So
yeah. Mm-hmm. That would open a lot of doors for not only Microsoft but Steam as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Honestly, it would open a lot of doors for everyone except Nintendo because they'll never release their games outside of their consoles.
No, and they don't seem to need to because they're just selling like gangbusters.
Mm-hmm.
AKA like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is like the best-selling game of all time.
Yep.
Mind-boggling. Actually, there was one more rumor I was just going to say. Oh, yeah. This one I don't think is like super...
Is it the Hollow Knight one? Because that one's interesting.
No, what was that one?
So Silk Song, for the first time in 5 years, had its page updated 2 days ago.
I did see that. Yeah. I don't think that game's ever coming out though, so I didn't think it was important enough to talk about.
Well, okay, so here's the thing, right?
Uh,
It was the Steam database page, which means it's internally updated, which means it's actually the developer changing something on the information that Steam receives. And that update does point to a release this year.
Yeah, there's a rumor that's coming out this summer, actually.
Yeah, that update points to it releasing this year finally for Silksong. But much like Bloodborne fans, Silksong fans should never expect anything ever.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, stay tuned. You might see it. No, the last rumor is actually not surprising. It's like super common sense, but it makes sense and kind of might shift up some things this year. But supposedly third-party developers are ready to get the fuck out of the way if Grand Theft Auto 6 actually comes out this year. Like nobody wants to come up to it, go against it, and everyone's planning on like diverting their games to a different time just to kind of stay out of that window.
Yeah, I saw that too. But like, here's the thing, right? Do we actually think it's coming out this year? Because I don't.
No, not yet. Not until they actually show off stuff like more regularly. I
need like gameplay or like something shown that
I want to see gameplay. I want to see more than just a choreographed trailer. Like let me see some actual like you said, someone actually playing it, in real time with kind of real missions and things like that. Show me that it's like more than just vaporware. It's a big game. Like I don't think anyone would be surprised by that. Even like that's just me speculating just on how little I know. But it's Grand Theft Auto. It's going to be huge. It's going to be a massive city with like tons of shit to do. So they're obviously going to make this game as good as possible because they want as much money back as possible. So but until they get to a point where they're regularly showing off stuff for it, like it will probably just keep going. Honestly, they'd probably be best off just dumping it in some empty spot early next year. Like I think what they did, if I remember, I want to say that's how it was with Grand Theft Auto 5. I think it was like a strange April release, but it did very well, obviously. So yeah, something like that I feel like makes more sense instead of like just imagine the catastrophe it would cause if they dropped it in like November. That would be like an absolute shit show. Not that the game wouldn't sell well, but just kind of the destruction it would cause on other games.
I think it is most likely that they would drop it in like November, December release if it does come out this year.
Yeah, if it does come out this year, that's the most likely spot.
Literally kill every other game's momentum in existence if that happens. Like no one should release anything at that time because it's just you have no chance. You stand zero chance. But you know what would happen? Because it always happens and it would make me laugh. They would release a New Horizon around the time of Grand Theft Auto because they release at the worst possible time Horizon games. We've been over this before. First Horizon game released right before Breath of the Wild. Second Horizon game released right before Elden Ring.
Hey, maybe third time's the charm.
Maybe. If we're not counting the Lego game, because the Lego game already released. Did you know that? I don't even think they know that.
No, I knew it came out. It didn't sell very well.
It's very bad.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
It's got to be better than the regular game, isn't it?
I don't know. I know, like, last I read, like, Lego Horizon, like, sold, like, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was close to, like, less than 200,000. Which is insane. Like, really bad. So, yeah, that was the last thing I read.
Yeah, I know it wasn't very good. Let's see what this says. See, as of no, that's not right. Oh no, because it's like how many copies did Lego Horizon sell? And then the Google stupid AI is like 32 million copies. And then when you pull down the more information, it was like the Horizon series. I'm like, that's not what I'm asking for. Yeah, nobody cares about the whole series, but Yeah, no, it's definitely, it did not sell well. I don't even see real numbers for it. So.
Supposedly, Lego Horizon is speculated to have sold around 30K in its first week. And since then, it's only made it to about 200K. That is the supposed amount right now, which is just awful. Like, literally the worst.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't have made money on that at all. Like, it's Lego, which is already expensive as a brand, and then it's Horizon, which is, that's gotta be bad.
Yeah, no, it cannot be very good. I don't see any sales data at all for this game. So, I assume that if
I only saw speculation. That's all.
Yeah,
literally,
which means
that's all I
saw. It can't be that good. It says that it had an all-time peak of 602 concurrent players.
That's good.
Steam.
That's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, excellent.
That's less than Concord, I think. Yikes.
So it did not do very well.
No, not at all.
And if it did do very well, you would have known because it would have been bouncing off the wall.
PlayStation would not have shut up about it if it did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, they would have been like, "Oh my god, the Lego Horizon sold millions." Instead, they're like, "Let's just forget that we even released that one." Lego
Anyways.
what? I don't know what you're talking about. That never happened.
I know. Anyways, anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up?
I'm good.
Okay, let's wrap it up then. Thank you everyone for listening to us tonight. Don't forget to find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google, Amazon, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to hear all of our old episodes, they're on game-crunch.com. And if you want to reach out to us, you can send us an email at gamecrunchcast@gmail.com. Brandon.
Hello.
Any final thoughts?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Then, that said, my name is Mike Anastasia. You can find me online. I'm Clash of Penguin there or on your favorite gaming console. And until next week, game on.
Game on.
Little toys on the shelf, they shine. Collector's dreams in plastic so fine. Tap them once, the magic's here. Amiibo, bring them near. Mario jumps and Link's got gear. Animal Crossing friends appear. Each one brings a story bright. Amiibo, light the night. Tap the figure, watch them go. In my game they steal the show. Every world from here they grow. Amiibo, magic starts to flow. Deep in dungeon or racing fast, these little toys, they're made to last. Memories from days of old. Amiibo, stories told. Touch the base, the game's alive. Each moment big, they arrive. Sky and sea and land we see. Amiibo, set them free. Tap the figure, watch them go. In my game they steal the show. Every world from here they grow. Amiibo, magic starts to flow. Keep an dungeon, close the door. In my game they steal the show. Every world from here they grow. Amiibo, magic starts the flow.
I did not see the time. I am here.
Huh?
I did not see the time. I am here now.
I mean, it's 6:30. That's the time I'm supposed to be here.
Oh, my clock's a little bit late. Then it says 6:35 for me.
Oh, yeah. No, you're right on time.
Okay. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Yeah.